Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So this video is a quick one, a quick preview of the undercard for Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois. Of course, this card goes down on the 21st of September, promoted by Riyadh Season, Turki Al Sheikh, etc. Numerous promoters involved. And since this card has been announced, I've actually seen some criticism for the undercard. Now, unlike the previous Saudi shows, this undercard has a much more domestic feel to it, but I feel the criticism for the undercard has been somewhat harsh. Not saying it's the best undercard in the world, but I feel there's enough entertainment value there, and combining that with a very fun main event. I really like the main event, as you guys know. I think that one's going to be a barn burner. I favour Joshua, like I said, but Dubois is going to be live, in my opinion. But let's have a look at the undercard. Right, I'm going to start with Anthony Cacace versus Josh Warrington. Now, Cacace recently upset Joe Cordina, winning the IBF Super Featherweight title. Big upset, he knocked out Cordina in a really good fight. We've been hearing for a long time in the UK about Anthony Cacace's power. Never really shown it in his pro career because fights prior, he was more focused on trying to box. Against Cordina, he approached that fight like it was his one and only world title fight and his one and only chance. And he sat down on his punches, was much more aggressive, and we finally saw that type of power that people in boxing were talking about, because there's been so many sparring stories involving Anthony Cacace and his so-called power. He showed that against Joe Cordina. He's making his first defense against Josh Warrington. Now, this fight has had some criticism, and I understand why. Mainly the criticism is Josh Warrington doesn't deserve another title shot. When you look at it, Warrington is one win in his last five, not coming off great form. You know, he got knocked out by Mauricio Lara, had a technical draw with Mauricio Lara in the rematch. He then beat Kiko Martinez to win back his IBF featherweight title, a title that he vacated way back in the day, didn't want to fight his mandatory, but he beat Kiko. Then he lost to Luis Alberto Lopez, losing his IBF title, and then he fought for another world title against Lee Wood, where he got knocked out. So recently, Warrington's form hasn't been great. He's played politics and still got world title shots. And he gets another shot right now. Two defeats in a row, one win in his last five, and he's getting a title shot in a new division. So listen, I can understand the criticism for this fight from that perspective, from the political angle. But if we're talking about pure entertainment value, this one's going to be fun. Warrington is a buzzsaw, not a big puncher, but he likes to be aggressive, he likes to come forwards, he likes to let his hands go, he'll try and collapse the pocket, work you all over, body head, punches in bunches, volume. He tries to drag you into that sort of fight, he tries to drown you in a volume of punches. Cacace in his last fight, very aggressive, hard punching, good hooker, actually good timing as well. In that fight with Cordina, he was able to time Cordina very effectively when he kind of dragged Cordina into a brawl. If it's Cacace from his last fight, I think he will grind down Josh Warrington. Josh Warrington again may not be as confident as he once was, fighting in a new weight class and against a bigger guy in Anthony Cacace. I think this one's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a war. But based on recent form, I'm going to go with Anthony Cacace. Maybe I'll change my mind. But, you know, if Cacace fights with that same level of energy, I think he could stop Josh Warrington. But I think it's a very fun fight. Very fun fight, but I understand the criticism. Liam Smith versus Josh Kelly. At middleweight, by the way. At middleweight. Weird fight. I've never really rated Josh Kelly. One of those fighters who is the quintessential example of style over substance. You know, he's got some fancy moves. He moves his feet quick. He tries to fight with his hands down, and in moments he can look pretty good, I guess you'd say. But fundamentally, there's a lot missing with Josh Kelly, and he's been found out at European level at welterweight, where he got stopped by David Avanesian. He's now fighting at middleweight against Liam Smith, a guy who's very experienced, who's fought at a good level. What does Liam Smith have left though? Got butchered by Eubank in their rematch. Before then he knocked out Eubank, but he got battered himself in the rematch, looked really, really bad. What's he got left in the tank? Is Liam Smith so diminished to where Josh Kelly can actually dance around him and keep him at arm's length and outpoint him? Not sure, to be honest with you. This fight to me is purely dependent on what Liam Smith has left. If he has anything left, he should beat Josh Kelly. Bear in mind, you know, Kelly went from welterweight to 154 to now 160. This is Kelly's first fight at 160. Part of me thinks that Smith is probably shot or near to shot, which gives Kelly a chance in this fight. But I guess gun to my head, I'd still pick Smith. But for me, it's an interesting fight. It's a weirdly interesting fight. I'm not even a fan of Kelly, like I was saying, but I'm somewhat intrigued for some reason. Maybe I'm easily pleased. We then move on. European title fight at middleweight. Tyler Denny versus Hamza Sheeraz. Hamza Sheeraz looked good in recent fights. On the last Saudi card, he knocked out Ammo Williams in a battle of unbeaten middleweight prospects. Pretty much dominated Ammo Williams, in my opinion, before getting the stoppage. He's fighting Tyler Denny, a bit of a Cinderella story in boxing, in British boxing. Tyler Denny started out as a part-time boxer. I believe he was a tradesman, like a plumber. Lost a couple of fights below domestic level at English title level. Looked like his career was going nowhere. It looked like he was just going to be a tough, small hall type of fighter. But he's rebounded, he won a European title, and he's coming off the best win of his career over Felix Cash. Tyler Denny's not a big middleweight, and he's not a big puncher. In fact, Tyler Denny's only got one stoppage in his whole career, but he's a fit guy, he's deceptively strong, and despite not being a puncher, he's got a good habit of collapsing the pocket, making it physical, and making it very uncomfortable for fighters he fights. Very awkward fighter as well. You know, I think he'll give Hamza Sheeraz some good rounds, but Sheeraz is much taller, much longer, a more precise puncher, a more powerful puncher, and a higher class fighter. I expect Denny to give it a real go. He's not going to lie down, but Sheeraz is going to be too big, too strong, too long, too powerful, in my opinion. I see Hamza Sheeraz becoming the new middleweight European champion. Another one here, we move on. Light heavyweight. Interim WBO light heavyweight title. Joshua Buatsi versus Willie Hutchinson. A lot of people like this fight, and I think it's okay. No real issue with it per se. Not looking forward to it as much as most people are. I don't rate Willie Hutchinson all that highly. Got some nice moves, he can be nice and slick at times, he moves well, good hand-eye coordination, but when I watch Willie Hutchinson fight, I see a knockout waiting to happen. Chin in the air. Not convinced by his gas tank, to be honest. Yeah, he beat Craig Richards in a 12-rounder, but he wasn't really made to work that hard, and he was gassing towards the end of that fight, and Richards was terrible, and Richards was still able to put pressure on him in the last few rounds, despite Hutchinson dominating the early rounds and boxing at his pace. I think that fight has a lot to do with Craig Richards. I'll leave it at that. You know, again, Tony Sims' gym, out of the ring for a long period of time. Maybe his nutrition wasn't what it previously was. Put it that way. But it wasn't Craig Richards that we're used to seeing. Regardless, I think Hutchinson could be tricky early on, sort of first 2 to 3 rounds, whatever. But after that, I think Joshua Buatsi's physicality, the power, the bodywork will get to Willie Hutchinson. And I expect Willie Hutchinson to get knocked out mid-rounds. I think this one's an easy one to call. I think that Craig Richards fight flat as Willie Hutchinson, to be honest. I kind of view Willie Hutchinson in the same manner that I view Josh Kelly. Not in terms of like styles per se, because Kelly's a lot more flamboyant, obviously. But you look at what Hutchinson does, and there's moments of quality. There's moments of real class, but he's one of those fighters I just don't think can sustain it, to be honest with you. I don't think he can sustain it. Whereas Buatsi, despite his flaws, is pretty consistent in his approach. I expect him to beat Hutchinson. I expect him to knock him out. Anything less is poor, as far as I'm concerned. Lastly, this is a big disappointment for me. Mark Chamberlain, lightweight prospect in the UK, big puncher. He's fighting an unbeaten guy called Josh Padley. Josh Padley, for those who are wondering, hasn't even proved himself at domestic level in the UK. He's won an area title. That's about it. Has a record of 14-0, but, you know, nothing to write home about. Mark Chamberlain is starting to get a bit of buzz in the UK. Wouldn't say he's being hyped up, but he's fought on a couple of Saudi cards. Apparently he's Turki Al-Sheikh's favourite fighter, believe it or not. But I think this opponent is poor. I think they could have done a lot better than Josh Padley. You look at lightweight in the UK right now. Why is the Sam Noakes fight not happening? Sam Noakes recently won the European title against Ivan Mendy, and he's also a Frank Warren fighter, as is Mark Chamberlain. Why couldn't that fight have been made? I believe he's also the British lightweight champion as well. Pretty certain he is. Sam Noakes versus Mark Chamberlain would have been a much better fight. Two guys who are mid-20s, unbeaten, big punchers, domestic level fight, would have been really good. Yeah, the Mark Chamberlain fight for me is a big disappointment because, you know, in March he had that great performance against Gavin Gwynn, another former British champion. Good step up at the time. He then took a step back in the next Saudi card in May. He fought a Nigerian who was way too small. And now he's fighting Josh Padley, who is a no-name, essentially. So the last couple of opponents for Mark Chamberlain have been pretty underwhelming. I don't think they've built from the Gavin Gwynn fight. But I guess he's active, right? I guess he's active. That's the main thing. But yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not trying to paint this card out to be like a historical card like the promoters are, like Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn. But at the same time, I've seen a couple of people online saying this undercard is crap. I disagree. I think it's a good undercard. I think it's a solid undercard. I think the pick for me is obviously Kakache versus Warrington in terms of pure entertainment. But yeah, we'll see, man. I think it's a decent card. It's entertaining enough. Does the job, you know? But anyway, share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Del Boy. Peace.